Is participation mentality ruining our students? Can the American system work if our students lack moral and ethical values? My students are going to be the business leaders of tomorrow. That is my hope, and that is my plan. So, in my classes, I try to give them assignments, not just in which they're graded, but also where they do the grading. In one of my courses, I have students work in teams on a semester-long project. During the semester, they hand in parts of that project every few weeks, and the project finishes with a presentation before the class during the last class of the semester. They also work in teams to complete something I call a knowledge assessment, which is 5 questions that relate to the chapter of the textbook that the students are studying that week. One part of that assignment is for the students to evaluate their team members. The team members are evaluated on such things as preparedness, availability, cooperation, and participation. I think it is important for students to get practice at evaluating the performance of other people, because in the workplace, those students may have to evaluate the performance of staff, their supervisor, contract workers, and maybe even suppliers. My evaluation form asked the students to evaluate each team member on the following criteria. 1. Team member came to class prepared, having read the chapter of the textbook being discussed in class, and having completed enough studying to have a basic understanding of the key learning objectives of that chapter. 2. Team member actively participated in formulating answers to in-class knowledge assessments and actively participated in solving problems assigned in class. 3. Team member encouraged other team members to participate and assisted other team members to understand concepts and material when the team was working together. 4. Team member actively participated and contributed to the planning and completing of the semester's group project. 5. Team member was available and attended outside class meetings, conference calls, and/or chat sessions, was responsive to text messages and/or phone calls, and otherwise activity participated in group development and group learning. My experience, having had students perform these evaluations over the years, is that if a group has 5 members, the members will evaluate the members very similarly. What I mean by that is that if we take one group member, say the best performer in the group, the other 4 group members will evaluate that group member highly and within a very small range. Alternatively, if we take the worst performer in the group, the other group members will evaluate the worst group member poorly, and again within a very small range. I, of course, as the professor, have a reasonable idea of which students are performing well and which are not. I can typically accurately judge how well or poorly an individual might perform on a team based on the quality of individual assignments, class participation, seeing students working in groups, and attendance. Further, students who have particularly poor performers on their teams will often tell me about those students in confidence. Therefore, when I review the results of these student evaluations, I am rarely surprised, and when students are graded poorly, I tend to agree with those evaluations, and when students are graded as top performers, I tend to also agree with those evaluations. However, during this past semester, something happened that has never happened before. On one team, every member of that team graded every other member with a score of 30 out of 30. So, every member of that team received a perfect score from his or her team members. That surprised me for several reasons. During the semester, several members of this group had poor attendance. When I saw them working together in the class on group assignments, it was clear that some members were not prepared and did not actively take part in problem solving. The presentation by this group at the end of the semester was certainly well below the quality of presentations by other groups, particularly when compared with earlier classes. The general quality of the various other parts of the semester project were poorly done. Further, during the semester, 2 members of this group had complained to me about other group members not carrying their load. So, this does not seem like a group where every team member would be rated as a top performer and receive a 100% grade for his or her contribution. It is clear to me what happened. There are 2 possibilities. First, the students could have graded each other with perfect scores because they were too lazy to take the assignment seriously and to properly evaluate their fellow students as required by the assignment. Second, they could have colluded with each other to give each other perfect scores, knowing that these scores would form part of their grades. I must think that the second possibility is most likely because in a group of 5, I doubt every member would have been too lazy to complete the project properly. Let me restate that. These students, given an assignment designed to prepare them for the workplace, made the decision to not do the assignment as instructed and to collude with each other to cheat the system. To get the maximum reward for themselves, each was willing to give the same reward to another student who did not deserve it. One student even wrote on her submission form, "While you may not think everyone deserves a perfect score, if you're asking me to evaluate them, there shouldn't be any restrictions on how I grade them." Note, the sentence is written by the student had a few grammatical errors, which I corrected in reproducing it here. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what moral justification these students had for doing what they did. Based on the statement that one student wrote, she suggests that everyone does deserve a perfect score. Is that a manifestation of the participation trophy concept from grade school, where there are no winners and losers? I have to wonder. I further wonder if I would want this person working in my organization. Would I want a manager that can evaluate and differentiate good employees from poor employees? Would I want a manager that colludes with his or her staff to falsify performance records for personal reasons and perhaps financial gain? These kids are all graduating with finance degrees either this semester or next semester. Some of them will come to me and ask for a reference to provide to a prospective employer. Obviously, I'm going to be hard-pressed to provide such references. I am sure some of you may think I am overreacting. You may be thinking these are just kids being kids. I think it is worse than that. I think it is demonstrative of a shift in our culture, where cheating and gaming the system is just what people do, with little thought as to the morality of their decisions. I think it's a manifestation of an idea where equal outcomes are more important than equal opportunity. I think it is a function of those who say that the system is rigged and that honesty and hard work don't pay off. I think it is a result of a continuing attack on Western culture, capitalism, and American values by leftist elites and globalists that have infiltrated our educational system. John Adams, one of the most influential of the Founding Fathers and second President of the United States, said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Have we lost the moral and ethical character necessary for the American system to work? It is sad that we must ask the question,